Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today I wanted to do my predictions heading into week 9 of the 2015 college football season. So last week I went 14-6 for an overall record of 109-51. So not too big a slate of games in this week either. Pretty wild week last week, like I said yesterday, for the slate of games that we actually had. But go ahead and start with my predictions. So first game is North Carolina and Pittsburgh. So pretty big low-key battle in the ACC this week. I think that North Carolina can actually come out on top in this one. Not much to say about the game. I think it'll be a really close, entertaining game. It happens on Thursday, and actually could have a pretty big say in how the turnout of the ACC happens. So move on to West Virginia and TCU. So this game is in Fort Worth. If it was in Morgantown, then I don't know. I would be a little bit worried for TCU. But since they have the game at home, then I think they'll be able to take care of business, no problem. So move on to Oregon and Arizona State. Two teams that have been really disappointing this year. Oregon, both teams are actually at 4-3 right now, but I think Arizona State's going to win this game just because they have it at home. They've been looking a little bit better than Oregon this year. Oregon, basically every win they've had to get this year in the Pac-12 has looked like it's been a complete struggle. So move on to Syracuse and Florida State. So Florida State really disappointing loss to Georgia Tech after the blocked field goal. And then Syracuse coming off a loss to Pittsburgh. I think the Florida State will take care of this game. The line is Florida State by 20, 21, something like that. Might be 20.5. I think the Florida State will not meet that spread. I think it's going to be a little bit closer, but I do think the Florida State will take care of this game. So move on to Illinois and Penn State. So two teams that will probably be Penn State will definitely be bowl eligible, but two teams that have had decent seasons so far inside the Big Ten. Penn State just got ran over by Ohio State a couple weeks ago. Illinois coming off a loss to, I believe it was Wisconsin last week. So, could be a pretty entertaining game. I think it'll be low scoring, but I think Penn State will come out in the end. Move on to Ole Miss and Auburn. So, Ole Miss was able to beat Texas A&M last week, and Auburn was actually lost in, I don't know if it was single or double overtime to Arkansas, but really high scoring game. I think Auburn is on the right track. But I think Ole Miss is going to get this game, even though it is at Jordan-Hare. I don't think that Auburn has too big a home field advantage this year. So move on to South Carolina and Texas A&M. So two teams pretty much headed in the same direction. Texas A&M's had a really rough last 2 weeks, but I think they'll get back on track this week against South Carolina. Move on to Rutgers and Wisconsin. So Rutgers just got ran over by Ohio State this past week. Wisconsin coming off a decent win to Illinois. I do think that Wisconsin will be able to rattle off a couple straight wins, and I don't think they have too many tough games left on the schedule, so should be able to take care of a pretty bad Rutgers team, no problem. So move on to USC and California. So California was not able to take care of UCLA last week. USC just pretty much dismantled Utah. I think that it'll be a pretty close game this week. Cal will put up a good fight, but USC will end up winning. I think the USC is, since they got rid of Sark, the talent's going to be able to be put together at least a little bit better. So move on to my next game, Colorado and UCLA. So Colorado was able to beat Oregon State this past weekend, and UCLA was able to have a huge game against California. So I think UCLA is going to take care of this game again, no problem. Josh Rosen will have a good game. I think the defense will play well. Thomas Duarte had a huge week last week for UCLA. It's good to see all the skill positions clicking again for UCLA. I think that Paul Perkins, Sosa Jamamo could have a huge week too. So move on to Clemson and NC State, and I think this game could be real interesting. NC State's has had a tendency to play spoiler the last couple of years to some big teams. First thing that comes to mind is Florida State. I believe it was in 2012 when they were number 3 in the country. And I think that it could be a repeat of that this year. I think that I don't think anyone's expecting Clemson to be able to lose a game like this. I don't think that anyone anticipates Clemson with how they played last week against Miami to even lose another game this year. And I definitely think that Clemson's going to be looking ahead to Florida State and pretty much underestimate NC State. I think NC State will actually be able to pull up the upset in this one, and that is my upset of the week. So I know it's a bold one, but I was right on the prediction last week. It wasn't a very bold prediction last week. I actually went with the favorite in the spread with picking USC over Utah. And yeah, I think it'll be. I think that this upset will actually happen. I have faith in NC State to actually pull off one huge win this year. They are actually a decent team. Jacoby Brissett leads a pretty good offense that I think could definitely give Clemson's defense some fits. I think that it will be a lower scoring game. Deshaun Watson has had a little bit of trouble against teams like NC State this year, and I think that'll continue. So move on to Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. So again, two teams headed in opposite directions. Oklahoma State had a big 58-10 win against a really bad Kansas team this past week, and Texas Tech just got railed by OU. I think that Oklahoma State will be able to take care of this game. I think it will be pretty close. Texas Tech has the game at home. They've been able to play a little bit better at home than they have on the road this year. And just recall the last time Texas Tech played Kansas, which was 2 weeks ago, and it was 30-20. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma State will come out on top on that one. So move on to Maryland and Iowa. So I don't think this game will be even close. I think Iowa's really getting on the right track. Maryland's one of the, I'd say, on the worst end of teams in the Big Ten, and Iowa should be able to take care of this game, no problem. So move on to Georgia and Florida. So one of the bigger games of the weekend. I really think this game will determine the outcome of the SEC East. This is the biggest game in the SEC East for the rest of the season. Georgia is really the only team that I can see competing with Florida. If Georgia can somehow come on top on this game, or come out on top in this game, Grayson Leonard's going to have a huge game. The defense is going to have to step up in a big way. Malcolm Mitchell's going to have to keep playing huge, and they're going to have to find some solution in the running game to match the production they had with Nick Chubb. Now, Sonny Michel has been playing good when he's been called upon. Keith Marshall's also been pretty solid, but it's almost impossible to replicate the production that Nick Chubb gave them. So I do have Florida in that game. I do think it'll be close. I do think it'll be an entertaining game. So move on to Miami and Duke. So a lot of controversy around Miami this week after firing Al Golden. I have no idea who they're going to rehire. For my personal opinion, I think they should go bold and hire Butch Davis. There's a lot of people that want him back in Miami. Sorry about that. So I think that whoever Miami hires will be better than Al Golden. I think that he was a decent coach, but just not fit for Miami. Yeah, I think Duke will be able to come out on top in this game. Duke's been solid this year, even in close games, they've been able to pull them out. I think this is going to be Duke's toughest game for the rest of the year outside of North Carolina, and I think they'll be able to take care of it. So move on to Stanford and Washington State. So Washington State is actually pretty legitimately good this year. Weird to think they've been on almost the worst team in the Pac-12 for a few years now. Mike Leach has that team headed in the right direction. The offense has been looking very good. But I don't think they're good enough to beat a Stanford team that's just been on a roll. It looks like the best team in the Pac-12 right now. So move on to Notre Dame and Temple. So game of the week, I believe this is where game day is going. It might be the biggest game in all of Temple's history. And, I just don't see a way that Temple could beat Notre Dame. They're just not even close in talent. Temple is one of the better non-Power 5 teams. I will give them that. And the defense is very solid, but I think Notre Dame's just entirely too talented on both sides of the ball to lose to Temple. So move on to Tennessee and Kentucky. So, Kentucky's actually been pretty solid this year. Tennessee is rough a year as anyone has had. They came very, very close to beating Alabama last week, but wasn't able to quite pull it out. I think the Tennessee will win this week. Probably will be a close game, but teams like Kentucky, they really haven't had any trouble against this year. So move on to Michigan and Minnesota. So Michigan, tough. Really, really tough game against Michigan State. So obviously everyone saw the return 2 weeks ago. I think Michigan's still pissed off by it. I think they'll just rail Minnesota. I don't think there's any much more to say than that. So move on to Oregon State and Utah. So might be one of the best 3 teams in the Pac-12 versus maybe one of the worst. So I think that Utah is very pissed off about the way that game ended. And, yeah, I think they'll blow them out. So, yeah, those are my predictions for Week 9. Very short, sweet, to the point. Hopefully it's a good week. Hopefully we can see some good upsets and see if my upset of the week actually rings true for the second week in a row. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.